This is my abandoned BMW diesel and it needs a lot of repairs, but I'm not going to just fix it. I want to make it faster than an M3. BMW's last ever V8 3 Series with over 400 brake horsepower and a 0 to 60 of just 4.6 seconds. It's going to be a huge challenge. But to get this car faster than an M3, I'm going to have to get it started first. Because this car's got absolutely no power, meaning I can't even open any of the doors. So I need to climb through the car to open the boot, to replace the battery, and hopefully it will give the car power and let me start the car for the first time in 2 years, so I can try and figure out how to double the horsepower. Oh, perfect. That went about as well as I could have hoped for. And with the car running, it's now time to try and tick off the long list of fixes and then get this car from a 6.7 second 0 to 60 down to a 4.6. And the first thing that I need to fix is my shock absorbers, because when I tried to MOT it, it failed its inspection because of leaky shocks. So after jacking the car up, I've got some brand new BC Racing coilovers to fit. But first, these shock absorbers are connected in the inside of the car, so I'm going to need to rip out some of the carpet, unbolt the top of these, and then we're one step closer to dropping the subframe. And I need to drop the subframe not only because they're known for getting rusty on these cars, but I've got terrible handling, and I think the subframe bushes are a big part of that. And with that shock out, you can see how bad it is. It's supposed to be hard to push down and spring straight back up again, so I'm pretty sure this is another reason for my terrible handling. Then, with a load of rust and mud falling off the car, the springs come out after undoing this bolt to release this arm. And with them finally out, I'm going to go to the front of the car and waz out the front coilovers so that I can get these new BC Racing coilovers in. I'm hyped for them. And now with everything on the front coilovers disconnected, I need this little splitter bit to split open the knuckle so that I can stomp it out from the shock. These old coilovers are going exactly where they belong, on the floor for scrappers. Right, now I've got that coilover off, I'm actually going to take off the anti-roll bar because although I'm not changing the anti-roll bar, I am changing the drop links to adjustable ones, and the bottom ones are just mashed to pieces. They've got a hex-shaped hole in the drop link, so you're supposed to stick an Allen key in there to stop the thread spinning whilst you undo the nut. Oh, you But I've just stripped that off, so it looks like it's plan B. And the other side came out pretty easily, really. And now that the old drop links are off, I can start fitting my new adjustable ones. Now these are important when you lower your car, because if you don't change the length of your drop links, it can mean that your anti-roll bar starts hitting against your control arms when cornering. Right, with that anti-roll bar back on and the coilovers out, I'm gonna see if I can change these track rod ends because they are completely seized solid. I'm gonna have to replace them. So somehow I've actually got this one turning and it didn't round off. Nice. But on the other side, someone's already rounded it off, so I'm going to have to get the angle grinder out on that one. Show us the cut, Billy. And now I need to remove the CV boot so that I can find that 6-sided end of the track rod so that I can unthread it from the power steering assembly. And once that's out, I do need to cut the track rod in half so that I can reuse the boot. And now it's important that I change these so I can get the right alignment, and when I've got 400 horsepower, my car's not trying to throw me into a wall. And now both those track rods are in. There's one more thing I've got to do, and that is count up how many threads were showing on the previous track rod ends and then just match that with my new ones. It's probably not going to be right, but it's going to make me safe to drive it to an alignment shop so that I can get them dialed in perfectly. Because by twisting this on the thread, you can either make it longer or shorter, and that pushes your wheel out or brings it back in. And after I've marked those off my list, time to put on some coilovers, and not just any coilovers, BC Racing BR series coilovers. Now on these, you can adjust the height from the bottom without changing the preload. They've got a camber adjustment on the front on the top, and they've got 30 seconds of damper adjustment that you don't need to do any disassembling to change. I cannot wait to try these. I'm sure the ride's going to be so much better. So in they go. And these are going to be such a benefit because with that camber adjustment on the front, I can get extra grip when I'm cornering with negative camber. They're built to last. And here you can see I'm changing how soft or hard the ride is without doing any disassembling, just by twisting this knob on the top. I've set them directly in the middle. It's 30 clicks, so it should be a nice middle ground. And look what I've taken off. This car is going to feel transformed. And now I'm only putting the drop links back on loosely because I'll need to change them when I've lowered the car. But now that's all done for now, it's time to tackle this rear subframe so that I can change the bushings. And the first thing I need to do is take the prop shaft out of the diff so that I can drop it. And then once the bolts for it are undone, I can pry that donut away from the diff flange. The next step is to get rid of all the sensors connecting the subframe to the car, and then removing the brakes, because the brakes obviously are also connected to the car. After removing this caliper, all this rust is starting to make this project a lot harder, because then I saw the brake cables that I had to undo, and yeah, see for yourself. I have to remove these brake lines, not only because I'm dropping the subframe, but I've got some stainless steel braided lines as well. And now, in the process of removing these, they are very, very rusted and very seized. So seized that the only way I could do them was by breaking the end off the hard line. So I've had to go to BMW to pick up new hard lines. Man, everything on this car is an absolute challenge. Like, this bit was supposed to be quick, but it's been so many days of just trying to get this done. So after struggling for literally hours, I decided to sacrifice this hard line and just break the ends. But after I've removed the subframe, the brake line's further up. I can't do that. The only thing stopping me from dropping this subframe is the handbrake cables. Pretty easy job, right? Well, I thought so anyway, but after removing the brake caliper hanger and the brake disc to reveal the old brake pads, there's nothing left of them, so that's extra money that needs to be spent replacing those. And then once I've freed off the handbrake cable with this little thing at the bottom, I tried to undo this bolt here to pull it out, and this is how that ended. So I'm gonna have to deal with that later. But finally everything is off that needs to come off to drop this rear subframe. It doesn't seem like long for you, but it has been a journey to get here, and now there's 4 bolts holding this subframe on, so I'm hoping it comes out pretty easy. So I balanced the whole subframe on the diff, which isn't a great idea, and lowered it down on the jack, and look how much stuff fell out from under the car whilst I was working on it. I bet my Armstrong's floor doesn't look like this. I kind of can't believe how well that went, and I was a bit worried feeling the bushes because these back two feel pretty sturdy, but then I felt this one. And you can see that one's absolutely destroyed, so I'm hoping this improves the handling from the rear end, because like I said, when I'm driving at the moment, it sort of feels like it's got rear wheel steering. It's horrible, so I'm really hoping this fixes that problem. Now it's just a challenge of getting these old bushings out. But first, you always got to do a rust check, making sure none of these welds are cracked. And then me and Will went ahead and tried to use this puller tool to get the subframe bushes out because they're press fitted in, but that just didn't work. So I went to plan B. Lots of flames and a big bloody hammer. And this worked so much faster than the puller tool, so I went on and did the other 3 bushes as well. And this car is already being such a challenge to work on, but it's all going to be worth it in the end to have such a good car when I'm finished. But at this point, I'm wondering whether this subframe is even worth using or whether it's absolute scrap, and you'll see why soon. We're done. We must have spent like 3 hours on that first bushing with a press trying to get it out, and then we've done the other, well, all 4 of them now in what, like half an hour? Yeah. My god. And the next step was to unbolt these drive shafts so I can separate them, unbolt the differential bushings so I can get them out, and then replace this last differential bush. Yeah, that is toast.
Bet that thing is mashed. Don't go on the cam, don't go on the cam. Just loosened it.
You spaz. And now we did end up going back to that puller tool, which actually worked this time, and then I spent a long time wire wheeling this surface so that I could get ready to paint it and protect it from further rust. But thinking about it, I've gone this far, I might as well change the rear arms whilst I'm here, so I'm going to whip them out now. That way I can wire wheel inside them and paint it in between the hangers as well. And then when the paint's dry, replace them and get this thing back in the car. But first I'm going to give it some lubrication and a good old tap to wake it up with a hammer, and then get all these bolts out. And it was actually going pretty well. until I had to stop. And then yesterday I spent hours trying to get these rear toe arm bolts out, but they are just like welded to the inside metal bush, so I can't get the bolt out. That's because basically these bolts have been in for so long that the two metals have become one. So I cut the top of the bolt off, ground it down as far as I could safely, and then started drilling through them with the plan to just completely drill through the bolt. But after a while of drilling, the bolts are still seized in, so Tom's come up with another method.
I've drilled a small hole into the side of the alley bush and then stuck a pin punch in it. Obviously drilled the bolt out as much as we possibly could to remove all threads, and then just giving it a wee crack and it started to move.
It's spinning.
You pull it?
Oh, she's almost out.
Oh, pull it.
Yes! God damn, that was hard work. Just to get the arm out. On to the next one.
Next one.
Yes!
Hey!
Oh man, 2 days later we've got them arms out. And just like that, it finally felt like we were getting somewhere again. That hub with the drive shaft is off, and there was a few more arms to remove. Some of them came easy, and some of them came off not so easy. But with the arms off, it was time to remove the rear anti-roll bar so that I've got more space to paint and rust protect, and then getting these final bushings out, which again was a lot of fire and a big hammer. Nice! That took so long, but the subframe is finally completely disconnected, which means that I could go ahead and wire wheel everything that I couldn't get to before. But I found this, and I really wish I could get a new subframe, but to be honest, I am running out of money really quickly, so I'm going to try and weld this up with a little piece of metal, or try to with a stick welder from Aldi. So after grinding the surface down to try and get as much penetration as I can, I got this thick bit of steel plate, whacked it on top, and went to town with the Aldi welded, and I'm just hoping that it holds. But now I'm starting to think this rear wheel steering feeling I've got when cornering might be because of this crack. But I really can't afford to get a new one right now, so this seems like a better option than doing nothing. So with that welded, or maybe welded, and all the slag tapped off, I hit it with a hammer a couple of times and it seemed okay, so I'm just gonna send it because I really want to get this car finished. So now that little patch of rust is welded up to give it a little bit more support, I can hammerite this, wait for it to dry and get it back in the car. But there's a few jobs I need to finish before I can get this back in the car, and starting with these hubs, I need to get these old bushings out, so a lot of fire, a lot of WD-40 and a lot of hammering to get the old ones back out. And then, going back to this snap bolt from earlier, I had to drill that out of the hubs and then re-thread the hole with a tap and insert a helicoil, which is basically a thread repair so I can thread the bolt straight back into this knuckle. Now that that's finally in and fixed, I sent this off to get its new bushings installed by my local garage, whilst I attacked these further brake lines up above the subframe. And now I can't simply snap the end off because these brake lines go all the way through the car into the ABS unit, so replacing them isn't going to be easy. So the plan is heat them up, drench them in WD-40 so it lubricates them, and hope that these nuts split apart from the pipe and spin freely so that I can get these off without replacing those whole brake lines. And I have actually managed to do it, but I'm really not sure whether I've damaged the pipes. It kind of looks like I have, but I guess I won't find out until I try and bleed the brakes and see if it's leaking. Yes. But now that's done, I'm starving, but with me working on projects like this all the time, my girlfriend working full time, we often struggle to find the time to plan meals, make a shopping list, go shopping and cook real food. So we eat far too much fast food. That's why I'm hyped that HelloFresh are offering you 50% off your first box, 20% off your next 4 recipe boxes, and 2 months of free treats. Because after picking meals on the app, which is super easy as there's loads to choose from, including premium protein and calorie smart dishes, your recipe box is then delivered to your door with only the ingredients you need, so there's no waste. All the spices and sauces pre-measured to save you time. You also get these easy to follow recipe cards which make cooking super quick and easy. And honestly, one of the biggest benefits for me is there's only so many decisions I can make in one day before I start getting lazy and procrastinating. So without having to decide what to eat, decide what ingredients I need, go shopping, dinner has 0 decisions for me anymore, meaning I can edit and film for longer without getting tired or procrastinating. If you want to have something this nice, bring back dinner time and save yourself loads of time and effort, click the link in the description, scan this QR code or use this code and get yourself 50% off your first box, 20% off your next 4 boxes and 2 months of free treats. This is so good. Thanks HelloFresh, and now that I'm full up, it's time to go back and tackle these rusty front brake lines before seeing how much power I can get out of this BMW. Which for some reason are way less rusty than the rears, which is nice, and they came out super easy. And I can finally fit my first brand new Hell stainless steel braided line. And these are an important upgrade because with the standard rubber hoses, when the brake fluid gets hot, it can expand those hoses, reducing your brake pressure and meaning when you need them the most, you might not have any brakes coming up to a corner. But with the fronts done, I can connect these bits on the rear, but I need to fit the subframe and the brake calipers before I can do the last 2 braided stainless steel lines. And now those brake lines are sorted, I'm just going to do as much as I can to de-rust the underbody of the car and cover it in hammerite so it doesn't get more rust, I suppose, but I'm really not sure how long this car's got left in it before it falls to pieces. And I can't do the rears until I have got the subframe on, and I have finally finished pressing in the new bushings, which was a pain of a job, but now it's ready to go in the car. So I've got the diff on a jack stand, I'll get the subframe onto the diff, bolt that in, because that's how I'm going to jack it up into the car, and then I just need to fit everything. Anti-roll bars, brake lines, all the rest of it. And I wasted no time getting these arms back in with their brand new bushings. Man, this car is going to feel absolutely brand new, like it's just off the showroom floor. And I spent a small fortune on brand new bolts for all of these because they're actually stretch bolts, so you're supposed to change them. And with them done, it's time to fit my brand new poly bushes, which is a replacement bushing for the subframe mount, but they're stiffer than the previous ones, so it should give the car a stiffer feel and be more performance based. Right then, everything that needs to go on the subframe, I think, is on the subframe. Now I've left all the bolts for all the arms fairly loose because you actually want to tighten these when the car's at its ride height because it'll squeeze the bushings and set them in place with the arms drooped. And then when you take the car off the axle stand, the arms will come up to the normal ride height, and then the bushings will already be like stretched and warped just from sitting down. So you need to tighten these up and torque them up when the car's at its ride height. But I think it's time to get this in the car. It is about time. I can finally wheel this subframe back under the car, jack it up, and I'm actually using the jack to compress these bushings together against the car to try and help it seat better. And then I just need to tighten them up diagonally and get them all torqued up to spec. And we are getting places with this list. It's looking a lot more manageable now. It's time to do probably the most important thing, the clutch.
Step 1 of the build. Get sufficiently drunk.
And this is so important because with no clutch you can't put any power down no matter how much I've got, and although this is supposed to be an uprated clutch from Saks, it started slipping pretty much as soon as I did the 500-mile wearing period, and it's supposed to handle a lot more torque and brake horsepower than I've already got, so I don't know why it started slipping so soon. But after removing the gearbox, I noticed all this play on the flywheel.
Bro, that is like a new flywheel.
I don't think that's a good sign. And then as soon as I removed the clutch pressure plate, I could see all of these hot spots on the flywheel. So this flywheel definitely wasn't going to go again, meaning this failing clutch cost me a new flywheel too. I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe there's a big oil leak behind there, like the rear main seal, but I can't find anything to indicate why this clutch was slipping, and it really shouldn't have done because that should take up to like 400 horsepower. So I really don't know why this is slipping with like a stage 1 map. And you can also see the actual pressure plate of the clutch. This has got hard spots as well. Flywheel and whole clutch assembly is for the bin, which I haven't bought yet. But whilst I was under there, I do think I found the noise of one of my really bad clunks. This is the engine mount bracket that connects the engine block to the rubber engine mount. But now it seems like all of those bolts have backed themselves out, and even one of them was just sat resting on the front subframe. And now all these bolts are really hidden. So I've started removing the intake manifold and the intake pieces so that with that out of the way, I can get to these bolts from the top and retighten them. But as you can see, it's still covered in wires and hoses and all the rest of it, so it's not really helped at all. But now that we're here, I'm thinking I might as well do the rocker cover gasket. And although I didn't plan on doing the rocker cover gasket, it is leaking, so I thought, well, I'm here, so I might as well remove it and replace it, so I've got one less oil leak. But after removing all of these parts to make sure that I can get it out, it was going to cause me a lot more hassle than it was worth removing this this rocker cover later in the video. But as you can see, these bolts for this engine mount bracket are completely hidden and you can't really see anything. But I did Loctite all of the bolts after taking them out and then refit them all and made sure I torqued them all to spec. Finally, I am finished with those 3 bolts for the engine mount bracket, so now my engine shouldn't be bouncing off the subframe, which is great. Now, whilst I'm in here, I do want to replace these glow plugs because I've got the intake manifold off now, and they are right there. Here's the new ones, so you can see how thin they are, and they snap very easily. Now, if they do snap, that means that you have to take the head off the car. I am praying that these don't snap and they just come out easily. And although the stakes were really high, after a good douse of WD-40 and twisting them back and forth to free them off, I managed to get every single glow plug out without issue, which is just such a relief. This head doesn't have to come off. So in go the 6 new glow plugs. And they are finished, but let's have a roundup. The gearbox is off because I need that stronger clutch so it can handle the power that I'm going to be pushing through this engine, but the flywheel is ruined. And now I need to wait for my replacement flywheel. Engine mount is fixed. Glow plugs are replaced. I do want to do the glow plug module as well, which I got a code for in the car, which is basically a little ECU which tells you glow plugs when to work, and it is obviously very hidden, and again you can't really see what's there.
So there's a bolt here just where my finger is.
So you're just gonna have to take my word that I did change it. And now my glow plugs all should work perfectly. On to the next thing. Let's get this old turbo out so I can get my shiny new upgraded one.
There we go, plug unplugged.
But now I'm looking down there, it would be way easier to remove this turbo without the rocker cover on because it goes over the top of the turbo. So to do that, I have to get rid of all of the fuel lines on top, unplug all the injectors, unplug all the electronic connectors, vacuum lines, all the rest of it. But I started having trouble when I tried to remove the injectors themselves because they are just not moving. So I'm gonna hopefully get a injector puller kit tomorrow. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get this intercooler changed for the dark side development one, which is steps and way bigger. Luckily, there's just 2 bolts to remove this intercooler, so after undoing those, it drops straight out. And these are important on turbocharged cars because basically the colder your air, the denser it is, and that means there's more air that can get into your engine, which means more fuel. And on this you can see how much bigger it is and how much more surface area it has, which doesn't just mean more air can go in, but it also means it can get cooled more efficiently, making your air cooler and your engine more efficient. But I can't do that without just giving all these pipes a good clean up because they are filthy. And now I'm actually on to replacing parts which give me more power. I am so much more excited. This car is going to be a wolf in sheep's clothing when it's finished. Now with those pipes looking absolutely brand spanking new, I can replace the O-rings on these intercooler pipes with the ones that Darkside supplied with their intercooler. So next, I'm going to try and get the turbo out and leave the front mount intercooler off for now just because it gives me a little bit more space. And now I really didn't want to wait until I got the rocker cover off, so I decided to try and get this turbo out the bottom of the car. And after removing that V-band clamp, there's 1 bolt here on the front of the mounting plate for the turbo and another bolt on the back of the mounting plate for the turbo bolt, and now that should come out. And after getting to this point, I thought, I should probably drain the oil before I take off this oil feed and oil return line from the turbo and remove it. And once I've drained the oil, it's safe to remove this oil fill and the oil drain at the bottom of the turbo, and I actually managed to drop it out the back of the engine bay without removing the rocker cover, so that's handy. But that rocker cover does still need fixing because it's leaking. Man, that was a struggle. But old turbo is out and going in is the new turbo. Now it should just be plug and play. Let's get the new turbo in because in just 4 days I have got a remap that I have to be there for. I've got to fit the turbo, the intercooler, the clutch, the gearbox, the prop shafts, the heat shields, the supports. Oh my God. But step 1 of the rebuild process is get this fancy new turbo on. It's a Garrett GTD 2872 billet ball bearing hybrid turbo with electronic boost actuator that I picked up from Darkside Developments, and the amazing thing with this is the turbo is the same size and dimension on the outside, but the inside is way bigger and it's good for over 400 horsepower. So thanks Darkside for supplying me with this, and let's get it in, and I cannot wait to see how much power I can make. And I am so hyped to see how fast this car's going to be. But now that that's bolted in place, this is the oil feed tube for the turbo, and I thought whilst it's out, I might as well change the O-ring, so I made sure to douse them in oil to make sure they seal. This seems a bit controversial, but I don't see why you wouldn't, but I filled up the turbo with oil before connecting it to the car, so at least when the engine starts, if that starts spinning, it's got oil to lubricate it straight away from the top of the oil feed hole. And once that's all lubed up and tightened down, I'm going to get the brand new intercooler on so I can finish up all the pipes on this turbo so that no dust is getting inside it. And with this charge pipe fitted, it's finally time to fit this dark side intercooler. Now if you need any performance items for your diesel cars, the chances are Darkside have you covered, and they really know what they're doing. And I am honestly so excited to get this car mapped because some of the stuff I've seen them do is insane. But now that that's on, I can reconnect this sports DPF pipe and then plug in all of the O2 sensors, pressure sensors, temp sensors, and that's another thing ticked off the list. Turbo is done. And whilst I'm waiting for the flywheel, I thought it's a good idea to change this fuel filter quickly because it's probably never been done before. But finally, my flywheel is here and we are getting so close to getting this car on the dyno. I know I keep saying it, but I am just so hyped to see how much power this makes and if we can actually beat an M3. But with my replacement flywheel on and all torque to spec, it's time to get this 550i clutch on. Because after the issues I had with the previous clutch, I really didn't want to get another one that's just going to start slipping straight away. So after a lot of research online, I found a lot of people with these cars with high power run this clutch from a BMW 5 Series that has a V8 in it with over 400 horsepower. So although I'm going to have more torque, apparently this should hold the power, so fingers crossed. And now that clutch is in, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that'll handle the power, but it's time to get this bell housing in. This bit always takes ages, but hopefully this time not too long, because we are on a very tight schedule and there's a lot to do.
Go on, that's it. You're in.
Yeah, it literally took like 5 minutes. Right, that gearbox is finally in. It went so much smoother than every other time, so we must be getting good at this. But I am wasting no time now because we're another day down and another step closer to dyno day. And I can't miss it because I don't know when the next free date will be. So, after doing all the gear linkages up so that the gearbox is connected to the gear stick and bolting in the gearbox mounts, I connected my brand new clutch slave cylinder into the gearbox, which was a little bit different from the old one, but it says it works, so I'm gonna have to trust that. And then it's time to get the prop shaft back on, get the whole driveline connected again, and I'm fitting the rear brakes with no handbrakes because I got sent the wrong set and the right one isn't going to be here before my dyno session. So I'm having to put the car together with no handbrake. Right then, it's finally time to finish off these BC Racing coilovers install. So with the arm dropped, it's super easy to spin this spring into the little cup that it sits in, push it back into where it locates on the top, and then install the damper and wire that through the car. And now that I've finished off the fitting for these BC Racing coilovers, I can start bleeding the brakes because I've got the whole hydraulic system connected, including the master cylinder. And once I've bled the brakes all the way around, I wanted to do the rocker cover, but I can't find an injector puller to get these injectors out. And I don't have time because my remap is tomorrow at 8 AM. So I'm gonna rebuild the engine bay back up, drop the car, and then start putting some miles on this clutch to bed it in before the map tomorrow. So I'm supposed to do 500 miles. Whether I can do that before 8 AM, I'm not sure. But whilst putting it back together, I refreshed all of the gaskets on this intake manifold, and I'd replaced the oil filter as well, because I know I'm going to be refilling that with oil and a service is definitely necessary. So on goes the intake manifold, I drop the car, air filter back in, fans back in, everything on this engine bay is getting done up right now so that I can try and get this car remapped in the morning. I'm not at Darkside getting a remap. So after rushing last night trying to finish the car off, I was there until about 6 AM. When it came to starting the car, I had absolutely no pressure in the clutch line, nothing. And that clutch slave cylinder that I thought might be wrong was wrong. So I couldn't even start the car, and even if I could have done, I couldn't change gear. So I can't drive it. But with new parts on the way and Darkside trying to squeeze me in for another dyno session, that's not where we're leaving this build. We are gonna have a car faster than an M3. Don't forget to make use of that 50% off your first box with HelloFresh, 20% off your next 4 boxes, and free treats for 2 months. Honestly, it's a great service. I couldn't go back to not using it. It's made dinner time so much simpler. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to see the next episode where I finish this car, and I'll see you next time.
Get this video to 50,000 likes, we'll get this guy a gym membership.